Starting about 1890, the North Shore of Long Island became really the best place to have a country house with close proximity to New York City. In its heyday, there were over 1,200 large estates like OHEKA lining the North Shore of Long Island. Today, of which about 300 or 400 survive. And this is OHEKA Castle, which sits on one of the highest points of Long Island.
Financier and philanthropist Otto Kahn spent 2 years building this estate. And in the 1920s, he spent his summers here, hosting lavish parties, entertaining everyone from Hollywood celebrities to heads of state. A century later, it is an iconic piece of American history.
OHEKA is the second largest house in the United States, topping out at 126 rooms.
Following Kahn's death in 1934, the mansion changed hands. It was first purchased by the New York Department of Sanitation as a weekend retreat for its garbage collectors. They nicknamed it Sanatia. Later, it was a military academy. But over time, owners let the home fall into disrepair. OHEKA's fortunes would turn around in the 1980s.
A gentleman named Gary Milius bought the house in 1983 and proceeded to restore the home over the next 20 years, recreating the house and making it as it exists today. Today, OHEKA operates as a historic hotel and special events venue. Wonderful place to visit and catch a glimpse of real Gatsby life on the North Shore of Long Island.
In its heyday, 30 to 40 servants would have worked here, along with gardeners and cooks. The mansion would have run like a hotel, ready to host dinner parties for hundreds of people at a time.
When F. Scott Fitzgerald published the book The Great Gatsby in 1924, he was living in Great Neck, Long Island, a short distance from here, about 20 minutes away. He was writing about this lifestyle and the families that were living in these homes like OHEKA, which was a time that would never come again after World War II.
And that era can be felt throughout OHEKA Castle, beginning outside in the famous gardens.
Not just a beautiful house, OHEKA encompassed a large amount of formal gardens, including the sunken garden, which was featured in Citizen Kane in the aerial newsreel footage at the beginning of the movie. This garden features a lot of original details, including the Neptune statues in the garden, as well as some original trees. When the Miliuses purchased the property in the early 80s, the gardens were in utter ruin, and it took several years to restore them and bring them back to life. The coping around the edge of the reflecting pools, which were actually used as small swimming pools during the time of the New York Department of Sanitation, everything had to be totally restored.
And inside, the mansion's entryway was a gateway to luxury.
So now we're inside OHEKA, and this staircase is one of the first things that guests would see. The staircase railing and staircase is modeled after one at the Chateau Fontainebleau, and the iron railing here is designed by Samuel Yellin, the famous American ironsmith. And as you go up the stairs, you would arrive into the main hall of the house, where all the formal rooms would radiate from.
Further, the dining hall boasts soaring ceilings.
And now we're in the grand ballroom, or the living room of the house. This room was where all of the big parties would have been held. This is where the music would have been if it wasn't in the garden. When this was Eastern Military Academy, this was actually used as the gymnasium for the school. And above the fireplace mantels were actually the basketball hoops for the kids to play basketball. So this went from being a very large, grand and elegant ballroom with people in black tie and tails to being kids in gym clothes for a while. And now, As OHEKA is restored, it's back to use as a ballroom.
Finally, the mansion's grand room stands as a living legacy to OHEKA Castle founder Otto Kahn.
And here's Otto Kahn's library. Most of the parties after dinner would end in the library. Otto Kahn's home in New Jersey was lost to fire, so this room, which would have been wood-paneled traditionally, was actually faux painted plaster to look like wood, so it would be fireproof. The men would retire to the library for a drink. There'd be numerous discussions. And so, again, lots of famous faces and names you would know. The important power brokers of the day, opera singers, Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, probably sat in this room and had a drink.
For Paul Mattiunas and others who work here, OHEKA Castle is more than a window into the past. It is a living piece of beauty and splendor in the heart of Long Island.
I've been coming to OHEKA since I was 14, and it's a rather unique place to me because it is one of the only and last places where you can really experience North Shore life as it was at the first half of the 20th century.